Hello, everyone. I have Sergeant Commander Ashwini Jakhar with us. He went to AFMC, completed his MBBS in 2006. मेरा इस वाले कॉल का पर्सपेक्टिव ये था कि आप लोग में से काफी लोग हमसे AFMC के बारे में पूछ रहे थे। AFMC के अंदर एडमिशन कैसे होता है, किसको AFMC ज्वाइन करना चाहिए, नहीं करना चाहिए। A lot of these questions I'm going to ask Sergeant Lieutenant Commander Ashwini. He has had an interesting life. We will ask him about it. So, can we, Ashwini sir, can we start with just quickly covering eligibility criteria, and then I want to really get into the interesting part about your journey. What was your experience there, and specific things about life in AFMC. Should I open this slide about eligibility criteria? Let's quickly go through, and I can also ask some specific nuances in the admission process of AFMC. और उसके बाद फिर हम आपके specific life experience पे चलेंगे. Is that going to be okay, sir?
No, sure. Please go ahead. Please. Good to be here.
All right. Thank you so much. So मैंने slides खोल लिए हैं. So Ashwini sir, first interesting thing यहाँ पे जो मुझे दिखाई दे रही है, eligibility criteria में एक तो AFMC में है that your age should be between 17 to 24 years. So you passed out before NEET came in. So NEET के अंदर अभी eligibility age criteria नहीं है. You can be any years of age, but it seems AFMC में अभी भी 70 to 24 years का age criteria है students. Second thing is 60% एग्रीगेट होना चाहिए आपको 12th का पीसीबी में. वो ये भी एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि 50% इंग्लिश में होना चाहिए. अगेन दिस क्राइटेरिया नीट से थोड़ा डिफरेंट है. अश्विनी सर, इस जगह पे थोड़ा पर्सपेक्टिव बताइए. दे एक्सपेक्ट अ सर्टेन हाइट. मेल्स की हाइट 157 सेंटीमीटर, फीमेल्स की 152 सेंटीमीटर. देयर इज 5 सेंटीमीटर रिलैक्सेशन फॉर स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम हिली रीजन, और यदि आपकी उम्र 18 साल से कम है तो 2 सेंटीमीटर का रिलैक्सेशन है. ये क्या क्राइटेरिया है? ये बाकी कॉलेजेस में नहीं होता है.
Correct. So Kapil here, because Armed Forces Medical College is a college which prepares doctors for armed forces. When I say armed forces, is Army, Navy, and Air Force, right? So the primary objective of setting up that college is to really nurture and prepare doctors who can serve armed forces. Now, the doctors who pass out from AFMC, they also get commissioned into these services. They become commissioned officers after passing out from their medical college. So there is a dual objective, or rather there's a dual opportunity that exists for students who go to AFMC. They not only become finest of the doctors, but they also are commissioned as Indian Armed Forces officers. So the not only the regular medical examination preparation criteria are applicable for them. For these students who are appearing for AFMC, these additional criteria of age and height are also important, because as I said, they will be posted in various regions along with the forces that fight on the ground, right, along with the ships that sails and aircrafts that fly in the respective services. So all the defense health criteria, right, are very, very important. In fact, at a later stage, once the initial exam is passed, most of the candidates will go through a very thorough health checkup, right, and they will be and the health guidelines which are applicable to other officers, the similar guidelines with certain relaxation will be applicable to doctors also.
Great. So मैंने next slide पे I have brought it up to that aspect only which you just mentioned. Stage 1, I understand students have to have a good NEET score, and they should be eligible as per the criteria we discussed in the earlier slide. So what I understand is करीब 1000 students NEET के एग्जाम के बाद सेलेक्ट होते हैं. Then they go through the stage 2, जहाँ पे एक आपका टॉलर एग्जाम है, which is test of your English language and comprehension and reasoning skills. साइकोलॉजिकल एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट है जिसके मार्क्स नहीं होते हैं. इंटरव्यू है जिसके 50 मार्क्स हैं, और एक मेडिकल फिटनेस वगैरह का टेस्ट होता है. और इसके बेसिस पे दे सेलेक्ट 145 स्टूडेंट्स. आई वांट टू आस्क यू अगेन, 145 में से 117 आर फॉर बॉयज एंड 28 आर फॉर गर्ल्स. इसका कुछ स्पेसिफिक रीजन है?
So not really. I am not aware of any reason, right? Why would this split be like that, right? We can only guess it because Armed Forces is still opening up to women candidates as both jawans as well as officers. But
Right.
I don't think we're far from a situation when this split probably will not be seen, right? You will have a common pool, and whosoever gets in, right?
Great. And I also understand there are 5 seats that are reserved for students from friendly countries. Which are these friendly countries? India के friendly countries कौन से consider किए जाते हैं?
Correct. So these are the countries. For example, Bhutan is considered as a friendly country. Nepal is considered as a friendly country, and there are 2, 3 other countries. That definition of friendly countries is defined by Ministry of External Affairs, right, along with the Home Ministry. So
Correct.
I think those details will be available. But these 2 countries I'm aware of, and in fact, we had a couple of batchmates who came from these countries, right, and we forged very good bonds. So when you go to FMC, you not only meet colleagues from your own country, but you actually end up making friends from other countries as well.
I come to the third slide, sir. Third slide is the normal reservation criteria is not there. What I understand is 10 seats are reserved for SC/ST candidates. It doesn't seem like there is an extra reservation for OBC candidates. And SC/ST candidates should also come within first 500 in the combined final merit list. So that is one thing which I understood. The second thing which I understood is the calculation is out of 720 marks, what you get in NEET, plus Toller score of 80, both of these are added, divided by 4, plus 50 marks of your interview score. So total score out of 250 becomes a final merit list. So this is one more thing students should understand. Tell us about this 30 lakh bond that if you leave after 7 days of joining MBBS program and before completing 7 years of short service commission, you would have to pay 30 lakhs of bond. So this seems like a very, very big amount for an Indian. Why is there such a big amount?
So see, basically the primary objective of Armed Forces Medical College, right, I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation also, is to prepare doctors for armed forces, right? So during the journey of preparing doctors and officers for armed forces, FMC and the Indian government spends a lot of money. Most of the education and the life, life at FMC, right? All the expenses are paid for by FMC and Ministry of Defense, right? Whether it is there's no tuition fee per se, if I remember, or maybe it might be very, very minimal, right? The hostel charges, stay charges, food and beverages, right? Your world-class sports facilities, Olympic-sized swimming pools, right? All kinds of facilities, right? World-class infrastructure, everything comes free of cost to students who come there, right? So because the government is investing, I think, into these future doctors and officers, and the primary objective. See, again, we have to go back and say that why did India as a country, we made this choice that we'll prepare doctors for defense separately. We could have taken these doctors from the civil pool of doctors, because again, the all other branches, when they join armed forces, they go through a certain rigor. So there's a certain culture, there's a certain lifestyle, there's a certain discipline that comes in, right? So, and I think when you go through FMC, that institution prepares you for both lifestyles. So you live your life as an officer there, you also live your life as a doctor. So wearing the dual head, and in that process, the institution invests a lot of money. And I think 30 lakh is a just amount. When you look at me, when I passed out, it was a 15 lakhs amount. Okay. But also, I think it's more than the money factor. I think probably the way I look at it, having passed out from the institution 15 years since then, 2006, I passed out, is that I think it's very important that people who go there make this choice consciously. That why are we going there? What is the purpose of that institution, right? Because here, once they decide that, yes, I want to serve the country as a doctor, and I want to really enjoy both these parts of being an officer and doctor that I always wanted, then I think this amount is irrelevant because you're going there to serve. Correct. So I think that is a context there, and that's the reason also those lot of other criteria, whether it is English speaking criteria, whether it is your general knowledge criteria, because as I said, there the context is that they're also preparing you to become an officer. There has to be some amount of a generalistic approach there. So you are a subject matter expert as a doctor, and they also expect you to somewhat aware of the world around you, more of a generalist. So therefore, that general knowledge test, aptitude test, right, and a basic communication, because being a good communicator in defense services is very important, because you will be leading a lot of men and women in the field. Correct. So in that context, which may not be a requirement for a doctor, an extremely good doctor may not be a very good fine communicator. Some of the greatest surgeons, cardiac surgeons, their expertise is just outstanding, but they may not be the best orators and communicators. But I think in defense, that is a prerequisite. because you're leading large number of people there.
Excellent. So now I'm going to ask some specific questions with respect to your own journey getting into AFMC. So tell me this thing, while growing up, you wanted to be a doctor and you wanted to be a soldier. So that was very, very well said very early in your life.
Not very early, I think. Probably very young days, none of us really know where we want to go, right? So I think, but yes, at that point in time, this was very aspirational, right? My grandfather, my father, both were into defense services, so that came as a very natural extension of family. Also, my elder sister, she was a doctor. She was doing her graduation at that point in time, so that also sounds very exciting. I said, why don't I have both, right? And FMC looked like a perfect place to do what my family was doing for last two generations, and what my sister was also pursuing, and also because we had taken biology as a subject early on, and we are inclined right towards medicine, because my parents always looked at doctors in a very very highly regarded manner. See what we choose in life is also a function of ecosystem.
Correct.
All of us live in an ecosystem, right? So I think family ecosystem is important for all, and probably because of those two reasons, and it was also very aspirational, right? You being a doctor saab and you being a defense officer, which I think all your aspirants would love to be there. Yeah. So
correct. So the next thing which I want to ask, so I've interacted with a lot of army public schools. I would go and meet people. It seems that army men have to go through a very, very rigorous daily regime. Were you asked to run every day for 5 to 7 kilometers, or doctors don't have to, people who are going to AFMC to become doctors don't have to go through that regime?
So definitely from the basic health and fitness regime is there for doctors as well. But the regime is not as tough as it would be in National Defense Academy or Indian Military Academy or Naval Academy. Because in those setups, those military institutions, they are preparing warriors and infantry officers, all right? Basically, the fine soldiers, right, who will fight a war. However, as doctors, we are expected to be medically fit. We are expected to be, you have certain amount of, stamina, if I may say, or the bodily health, because we are posted in front stations. Like during my naval tenure, for a decent amount of time, I was there in Andaman Nicobar. In Andaman Nicobar also, I was at the farthest place, which is called Campbell Bay, right? Army officers, they get posted to hilly regions, to Leh, Ladakh, right?
Correct.
While Ladakh is a good touristy place, but if you go there and stay there for a couple of months, it requires certain amount of bodily health. If you are not healthy, right, if your lungs cannot take that capacity, that high altitude, it's very difficult. If you cannot walk for a certain amount of time, because a doctor is a asset for any infantry unit in the army. Because see, when is typically armed forces is a healthy ecosystem. People who join armed forces, they're primarily supposed to be the healthier of the lot. Now, why do we need dedicated doctors for that? Not because they fall sick often, because when they fight war, right? When they protect the country at higher altitudes, at these difficult terrains, then sometimes injuries are very common. Some climate related conditions are common. At that point in time, doctor cannot say, I cannot go there because I'm not physically fit.
Correct.
Doctor cannot become a liability. If every time a army patient has to be airlifted only from Leh Ladakh to a civil hospital, then why we need a AFMC, right?
Correct.
Right. The idea is that as a doctor, you stay with your unit, with the other officers, right? So you are expected to have the same health criteria. So coming specifically to your question, rigor of health rigor, the exercise rigor, the discipline rigor, right? Discipline rigor would be the same, but health rigor and exercise rigor would be much lesser than National Defense Academy, because your academic rigor is very high, purely.
So Ashwini sir, still I want to specifically ask you, क्या आपको रोज दौड़ने के लिए कहा जाता था?
Yes.
How much?
So we used to have in our days 45 minutes of physical training in the morning, right? And you'll be surprised that typically most FMCIs, they end up spending time in either physical training or actually their sports that they like 3 to 4 hours a day. Because there's so much sports, like in the evening after 4:30, we used to get free, and before the evening rounds, right? 3-4 hours at least we would have. I would play volleyball, then I go to the basketball. When it becomes a bit dark there, I'll go to a swimming pool, right? Because there's the beautiful, night lit swimming pool you have. And when you get tired enough, you go for a dinner, study in the evening, right? Bed, and then go to bed. So see, what I'm saying is the ecosystem is developed like that. The people who will join there, I would certainly through your channel, I would say, don't worry about that. It is again, they're not preparing you to be a commando there, but they want you to be healthy. They want you to be fit. So 45 minutes, 1 hour of physical training in the morning, sometimes physical training in the evening for half an hour, 45 minutes. Yes, that is there as a part of the routine. In fact, when you graduate, your passing out parade is of same quality and same level that you see in National Defense Academy or on the TV, right? So you go through,
Amazing.
you wear the same uniform. You are supposed to, your body language, the way you salute, right? Your physical health, right? All those things are there. You go through those training, and not only during AFMC. Once you join services, there are training courses after every 2-3 years tenure. Like there is something called as MOBC, Medical Officers Basic Course, right? Then after that, there's an advanced course. In that, you academically also progress. In health cases, also they ensure that you are fit and fine. From the training aspect, you continue to be trained. So yes, fitness is a focus area. Physical training happens twice a day, right? Normally, of course, except for exams and some other critical time periods, right? But yes, it's not of the same rigor that happens in National Defense Academy and other naval academies. So no need to worry.
Okay. Now, next, I understand from AFMC, students who are finishing their MBBS, they can get deployed in Army or Navy or Air Force or even Coast Guard. You ended up in Navy. So is there any specific criteria? Do you get to choose, or it is just allotment where you do not have a choice?
No, I think you get to choose. When I graduated in 2006, at that point in time, depending upon your merit in the final year exam,
okay,
you get to choose which service you want to go to. So, like when I graduated, I was rank 4 in my batch. So, and every year you have a certain number of seats that are allocated from each service. So, Army will say this year we have a quota of X number of medical doctors. Navy will say we can absorb these many. Air Force will say we can absorb these many. Based on that, suppose there is a batch of 120, 130 people that is passing out, you will have a number of seats. Typically, but we at our time almost you can say 80% to 85% were Army seats, and 5 to 7% were Navy and Air Force, right?
Okay.
So you can say assume out of 185 will be our Army seats, and 6, 7 will be, or 8 will be Navy, and similar with the Air Force. So
understood.
Yeah. So the people who perform well in the academics, right? They get to choose which service they want to join.
Now, next thing, in the normal world, for students who are pursuing their MBBS, as soon as they get into first year, the sword that starts hanging on their head is PG के अंदर सिर्फ 7,000 सीटें हैं गवर्नमेंट कॉलेजेस में, right? 7,000-8,000. So when you are doing MBBS from AFMC, does the path to PG, do you get there is some quota, or there is something with respect to AFMC students can do PG from there without going through the normal exam? How does the PG scenario work for students who are going to AFMC?
Yes, so after you graduate from AFMC, you are expected to first of all serve, for a certain time period into the peripheral locations. We call it field locations, right?
Okay.
And that time period is typically around 3 to 5 years, right?
Okay.
After that time period, you are eligible to appear in the post-graduation exam. There is a specific quota for defense officers in the post-graduate exam. Again, the mindset behind that quota is because you are serving in the field. There is a gap that mandatorily comes in because of the mandate from Government of India Defense Services that yes, you have to serve. So there is certain amount of discontinuity of that academic rigor, because it's very easy to prepare for a PG immediately after passing out, because you continue that academic rigor. Also, you are also younger at that time, because after 5 years, you are 5 years ahead in the life. So again, starting the same rigor, because of those various reasons, the quota is created, and typically people do post-graduation in Research and Referral Hospital, Delhi, Base Hospital, Delhi, Armed Forces Medical College, Pune, and various command hospitals as well, which defense has, right? INHS Ashwini, which is a naval hospital in Bombay, right? INHS Kalyani, which is a naval hospital in Visakhapatnam. So various Army and Navy and Air Force hospitals, at a regional level and the National Institute, you end up doing your post-graduation. Not only that, after you've done your post-graduation through this, there is a quota system there. Specifically, those seats are reserved for armed forces people, right? Even for the DM. So at a DM level, when you're doing your cardiology or nephrology, or further specialization in pediatrics, then also there is a quota, right? So many of my classmates right now, at least there are 10 or 15 of them who are in AIIMS right now. They're doing various, they're about to finish their DMs, right?
Sure.
Somebody is doing cardiology, somebody is doing advanced nephrology, somebody is doing neurology, right? So various things like that. So from a career aspect, you are really set up for success when you join FMC from both post-graduation perspective as well as the super specialization perspective.
Understood. Now, Ashwini sir, final question from you. I have had a lot of U-turns in my life. I did my civil engineering for IIT Delhi, did not do civil engineering work for 4 years, then did my MBA, then ended up into something else, and now I'm in education. Let's say going back, you are in class 12, you are super excited about AFMC, you want to be a soldier, you get into AFMC. And at some point of time, let's say when you have finished your 5 years in AFMC, you are around 23. And at some point of time, you say, you know what, I want to explore more beyond army. So how does it work? Because you have had an interesting journey. You are not serving in armed forces now, you are an entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur. So tell us about your journey and where do some of those changes start happening and where do exit opportunities also start developing as you have served more and more time. Give us an थोड़ा उसका idea बताइए कि आपकी जो life है AFMC से start होती है and right now you are an entrepreneur. We are probably talking about your AFMC life started in 2001. We are in 2021. तो 20 साल की जर्नी कैसे रही है उसका थोड़ा अपने पड़ाव बताइए. Tell us your milestones, how it has gone about.
Correct. So in my particular case, I got commissioned in 2006 and I left armed forces in October 2011, right?
Okay.
So I think after I served for close to 6 years. And after that, I did my MBA from ISB, Indian School of Business. And after my MBA, I was a strategy consultant with a consulting firm called McKinsey & Company in the Delhi office.
Correct.
And I started my own venture in 2015. So I run Prozo.com now, which I've been running it for last 6 years plus, right? So if you look at it, I transitioned from armed forces and medical side, right, in 2011, right, which was like almost I had a, you can say 10 year, 2001, I started that journey.
Correct.
2011, October, I transitioned from that journey. So for the people, I'll come to the my part also. For people, right, when who are going to join FMC, one is that when you graduate from FMC, there is one exit opportunity there. You can pay your bond money and not get commission, right? If you really believe this is not meant for you, for whatever reason, right? Sometimes your choices change. Now, the second is people who are in double minds, who are not sure how long they want to serve. They want to serve, but they're not sure how long they want to serve. In those contexts, you can choose short service commission over the permanent commission. Because at the time of commissioning, that choice also you have to give, that do you want to be a short service commissioned officer or do you want to be a permanent commission officer? So if you're a permanent commission officer, leaving after 7 years is also not a choice for you. Armed forces, they expect you to serve for a certain minimum period that goes beyond 20 years, right? So if you get commissioned at 22, you're expected to serve at least beyond 20 years or, till you get, a regular pension, right? That's expectation from the armed forces. Right, but before 20 years, leaving becomes a bit harder. If you're in double mind at that point in time, you can choose. You can say that I want to serve as a short service commission officer and don't want to go for permanent commission. In that case, after 7 years, you have to you will be leaving the armed forces. Right now, there are pros and cons of both. Right. In the first case, choice is very clear. If you don't want to get commission, you pay your bond money and take exit there. You never join the services. If you join the services as short service commission, you don't get to do the post graduation there through the army quota, which means that there'll be a gap of studies for 5 to 7 years, and after that you need to come out and prepare for PG and get through the PG exam. Good thing is even through NEET and in certain of these medical colleges like R&R, there is a quota for ex-servicemen, right? Which is basically after serving 7 years, because the government recognizes that you have served the nation, and then you get benefit of that quota also after leaving the army. But again, you have to build that same academic rigor after 7 years, right? You don't get to do the PG. However, if you're permanent commission, after 5 years, you get to do your post-graduation, and after a certain time period, you get to do your super specialization also. But again, at each of these milestones, there is a certain bond money, just like 30 lakhs is there at the time of graduation. That bond money also gets added because, a government is again investing into you. right? They're paying you your full salary when you're doing all these courses, whether post-graduation or super specialization, right? Also, they're giving you all the benefits that other army officers or naval officers or Air Force officers are getting. For example, when my classmates now are doing, say, cardiology or other DM in AIMS now, they're getting the same salary from the armed forces. They're getting the same benefits as officers. So government is sponsoring that. So because government is sponsoring, they don't want people to just take benefit and leave. So understand that there will be certain lock-ins, certain financial lock-ins will come in every time you do these higher educational courses through the quotas. Right. So that was the first part. Regarding me, in my particular, mine was a sort of slightly unusual case. I was a permanent commission officer. I wasn't a short service commission officer. And as a permanent commission officer, actually during at the time of just before commissioning, I got a knee injury. I got my ligament tear because I was a basketball player and I was a volleyball player as well. I had represented at national level in volleyball and state level in basketball. And again, you know, after commissioning, when I was in Andaman Nicobar, because there is a completely sea area, right? And we used to go into rescue missions, etc. I also again got my knee injured second time. So I've been operated twice on my knee, right? So because of that medical thing, you have certain medical categorization. So because of that medical categorization, if you're below certain medical categorization, which is basically if you're not fit to fight a war as a doctor, right? If you're not fit to sail for long duration, I think say probably 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in ships for whatever reason, right? Then they put you in a certain medical category, and in that medical category, you are not eligible to do your PG. So because I was not eligible to do my post-graduation, I took this conscious choice of saying, hey, let me come into the civil world. That's why being a permanent commission officer, I left in 6 years, right?
Otherwise you can't.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have left and I would have been continuing so far. So in my case, it's slightly different scenario, but I think in most use cases, this scenario will not be there.
Excellent. This is fantastic. I think I somehow had this impression you would be running 10 kilometers a day, and I wanted to tell students, if you're going there, just be ready for that. So that's not the case. It's normal, healthy physical life which you should have, which they're expecting.
But we do once in a while, by the way. I don't want to. I think we ran a lot of marathons. See, in general, it's a very physical fitness oriented ecosystem, right? But yes, right. I think that trigger you don't carry that heavy load, and you're trying to do that. We call it PPE and all that. But when you get commissioned, you will be doing all of that with your peers, because you can't say every time, you know, your whole unit is participating in some activity. No, I'm Dr. Saab, I will not do it.
Okay.
So, like you basically, what I'm saying is, it's very difficult to be in the ocean and then not get wet.
Correct.
so you know, so that's very difficult that way. But yes, I think the rigor is lesser.
Ashwini sir, this is fantastic. If you don't mind, what I will ask students is, if they have any other specific question, they are considering AFNC as an option, or they have some doubts, they can post in the comment section of this video. I won't share your number. My number is there with the students. So if they want to reach out to me, and I will collect some of that as a digest, and I might send it to you, or I might just ask answers on the phone, and I might type them up for the students, so that this thing is cleared up. A lot of confusion exists because perfect information is not available at a single place. I think this interview would provide a good overall perspective for all those students who are considering AFMC as an option post-NEET. So thank you very much for this, and I hope students find this extremely useful.
No, thank you, Kapil, for having me on your platform, and I really wish you all the best and all your students all the best.